Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Automated Advantage. Today we have Craig Harris on. And Craig, why don't you introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about your company?
Sure. My background, Greg, is in communications. I've been working with organisations around the globe for probably close to 40 years now, solving their communication issues. The journey for what we've built today, which is Look at Media, has taken about probably realistically about 30 years to develop. And it's been a case of identifying issues in terms of communication, keeping up to date with technology in this space. We've done a lot of other products in the communication space over the last few decades, and we've arrived at the destination where we are today, which is with a public relations platform that is the first of its kind. It's actually designed so that it can actually be used by small businesses. So just to give you a quick background on that, most PR solutions or the whole public relations process is out of the price range of small businesses. But you see organizations like Tesla and Facebook who brag about the fact that they've never spent money on advertising. When you look closely at them, they've spent enormous amounts of money on public relations. So that's how they've built their profile. And this has been out of the reach of small businesses. So small businesses feel they have to do things like advertising, and advertising is very expensive with quite low performance. Whereas public relations, if you've got the right tools and you know how to do it, you can get a lot more earned media, which can really help elevate your organization much faster and much more cost effectively than advertising alone. And that's been our focus. How do we deliver a technology that makes PR accessible to all businesses? So that's the product that we're talking about today.
Yeah, and it's interesting because I think so many people don't recognize, especially smaller businesses and things like that, recognize the ability to or the magnitude of what you mentioned earlier about engaging PR, right? And so I know this is like a unique platform, and it's built around authenticity and fact checking or whatever the words you can put in there. But like, explain to people why the platform is so unique, and that the information put out there, what we see today, you've shared with me, is you've given me percentages about how much of it is not believable, and why you guys are doing something different to solve that problem.
Sure. I'll start with it's a quote from one of our sales team who's just gone through the training on our new technology. And he's a bit of a gruff character. He's from Chicago. He's got that sort of attitude. Says very few words, but they tend to be important when he says them. After the training process, we asked him how he felt about the technology. He'd never been involved in PR before, let alone sending out a media pitch. And his response was, I think it's fantastic. He said, if you can fog a mirror, you can use this tool. So... and I thought that was perfect. I mean, that was, to us, that was exactly what we've been aiming for. It's so simple that you don't have to have that experience to use the technology. So to be able to arrive at something simple, technology, we put a huge amount of work into the background. So, for example, if we just touch on some of the challenges that the media has today in terms of the news that we see, they really struggle. Journalists are struggling more and more to find out what's real and what's not real. It's a case of AI is generating content that is so realistic, and the stories are so realistic. They have to get onto their stories very quickly, and they make mistakes all the time. So for journalists, they're getting to the point where AI slop is starting to overwhelm them. So even the bigger organizations are putting out press releases and not getting results. Our technology is designed to be quite different, because we started from the perspective of what journalists want. And then we built out a technology that fits with their workflow, their compliance requirements, and this new model of having to verify whether a story is accurate or not. So that technology is integrated into our system. We have our own language models that we built around that, which are not like the large language models. These language models are extremely accurate. And what that means is, as any organization, you could jump on and use our technology today, get press releases out, write press conference scripts, push out social media content, get your content shown in large language models, and do it within a few minutes at an extremely low cost. And what that means is that benefits the entire media landscape, because we have a situation at the moment where one or two people are dominating the media landscape globally, and journalists feel obliged to follow those stories because they don't have enough content. So by this technology enables a lot more organisations with important stories to tell to get that information out into the media and get it picked up by journalists. The benefit to those organisations is that builds their reputation, it builds their profile, and it builds their credibility through trusted sources in the media. And when we talk media, we're not just talking traditional media, broadcast and radio and things like that. We're talking all sources of media. For example, podcasts is a form of media. It's the fastest growing media on the planet. It's growing at a rate of 20 to 35% a year. So your listeners will know that. They'll put a lot more time into listening to your podcast than they will reading a news site. So we cover off the entire spectrum of what media is today by allowing them to get access to your stories.
Yeah, and again, just to validate this, and I think I want you to highlight the fact of the authenticity of not only the story, but you said images as well. Am I accurate in
Yeah.
that statement?
Absolutely. The Reuters Institute came out recently with a survey and they checked social media content through 2025. And their evaluation is that about 71% of everything that you saw on social media is AI generated. Now, I'll just hold for a second and think about that. So, all those wonderful, cute images of dogs doing naughty things and those terrifying images of wars and conflict and horrible things about people, 71% of that is fake and it looks real and it's convinced people around the world that these are real stories. And the problem with that level of fake information, whether it's done for nefarious reasons or whether it's somebody's just playing with AI, it creates false understanding of the world that we live in. So we have a situation now where it's not a case of if somebody believes in an image or a story or not. It's a case of will people believe anything? And once people stop believing in institutions, in organisations, we're in a really difficult situation. How do we get out of that if you can't get people to have a consensus on what the truth is? And that's a primary goal for what we're doing. Now, that also comes down to simple things. Like, for example, if you're launching a new business or something like that, you want to be able to get out there and control that narrative. Because as it turns out, there are a lot of organisations whose other people are controlling their narratives by creating fake content. So whether you've got a chain of restaurants or a small manufacturing plant, you might have a staff member who's left your organisation and they start making up these fake videos and putting them out there. And all of a sudden your reputation is shot to pieces. So it's not just a offensive tool, it's a defensive tool as well. And I think whereas you may have got away with not having something like this 2 or 3 years ago, I think it's going to be very important for even small businesses to have these tools at their fingertips. And that's been our goal, to make it affordable and easy enough to use.
Yeah, so to take that example of the small business, and I'm going to give you my interpretation of it and either validate it or say yes, but it's a little different. But in the biggest sense of the things, the tool allows reputable journalists to go to a place to gather factual information, whether it be content or images or whatever it is, and feel confident about putting that out there so that now their reputation is enhanced. So then for a small business like me, I would feel confident in using it because I put the content out there, and now somebody that's got some clout in the local community or whatever it is going to put something out there on my behalf that they can trust and stand behind. And if anybody challenges them on the facts, they can stand behind everything. That's generally what we're talking about.
That's exactly right. There's another aspect to our technology as well, which helps you identify those conversations. So we have a threat and opportunity analysis technology in the solution, where what I can do is I can put in the information about my organisation, and it will, and my competitors, and it will scan the media landscape on a regular basis. So if somebody's talking about your product in a negative way or your solution in a negative way, you know about it. If they're talking about it in a positive way, you know about it. But it gives you suggestions, even if you're not in PR, how to actually respond to something. So, for example, I did something yesterday as a test, which was Southwest Airlines. And with all of the noise around what's happening with the TSA and the price of aviation fuel and problems at airports and the conflict in Iran, you would think that, these stories are getting covered over and over again by journalists. So what journalists are looking for is a novel angle. And our technology looked at Southwest Airlines and said, look, all of these things are happening. But what's happening is that people are talking about the fact that you only have one charger point on your plane per customer. And obviously, people don't feel they have any control over anything else. But once they get on that plane after waiting in 3 hours at the airport, they won't be able to charge their headphones, their smartphone, their laptop or whatever. And because they've got one charge point, they can't. So that has become a conversation online and through media. Now, for South West Airlines, they could use our technology and push out a specific story about that, which plays into the whole narrative as what's happening at airports, and talk about it in a positive way, talk about the things that they're doing to upgrade aircraft. Now, you could do that with any business, so you don't have to be talking about the latest news, but there's often journalists are looking for a unique or novel narrative that they can actually get out there. And our technology can give you an idea of what that could be for your organization, and also how to improve your brand sentiment against your competitors. Now, again, you don't have to be an expert or know anything about this to use this technology. It's all set up in a way that anyone can jump onto it, anyone who can fog a mirror and start using the technology straight away.
I can see that as your new branding, your
I
brand
loved it.
thing.
I love, you all sit around in meetings trying to figure out what's our brand positioning and that. And as soon as I heard that, I thought it's a bit raw, but there's something about it that just really appealed to me. He just cut through the mire and said that's exactly what we wanted to achieve.
That's incredible. The whole that narrative that you talked about and using the Southwest Airlines thing, it takes me back to a little bit of a story. And I mean, I'm not going to dismiss the fact that COVID wasn't a very serious situation, but I had friends of mine who are in the medical industry who, we live near Newport Beach, which is an affluent community, and they were going, listen, this stuff you're seeing on the news is not accurate. Yes, there are places in downtown LA where the lines are out the door. If you come to Newport Beach, there's 27, beds open, and there's none of this stuff. And I could see, taking that as an idea, in, hopefully we never go through that again, but using it for, guys, here's the narrative. Yes, it's a very serious story, but here's the facts. Look, if you go
Yes.
here, this is going to be like this. And I could again see that as being a huge use case in that type of context.
Well, we also have something new this year, which everybody's coming to terms with at the moment, which is large language models. By the end of 26, they anticipate that 30% of the news that we actually read will come through large language models. So it won't come through traditional news sources. So people go there today and they use it as a search. So they'll look at anything from a product to a service to an organization, and they're looking for information and asking questions directly. So that technology also is going to play an increasing role. And our technology is designed to allow you to own that narrative. There are organizations out there who are not managing this side of things. So large language models work with what they've got at their fingertips, so that if there's bad reviews about an organization or bad information out there or even false information, it will pick that up because it needs information. So our technology is designed to also embed that as well. So in addition to all of those traditional new media sources, and social media, we also deliver content to large language models. And by doing that, it means that you have control over your narrative and anything that people understand about your organization. So you can't be passive anymore in this space. You have to be actively involved in managing your profile. And like I said, with the likes of Tesla and Facebook, they had massive resources that they built up, but they start from small PR teams. And in our case, you don't even need to have a PR team anymore. You can do it yourself. You can learn it in 5 minutes and you can master it within a couple of press releases. So it really is quite a big change in terms of the way that small businesses and smaller organizations, whether you're an organization that is in a local area and you're doing something about the environment or homeless people or whatever, this technology is now affordable so that you can actually get the media's attention. And once you've got the media's attention, then you can get the attention of politicians, community leaders, donors, all of those other things that you need to make your mission a success.
Yeah, and on that politician note, I know we've spoken before. It's and we discussed the in the US, as in you've been here, you've seen it, these commercials on TV, and there's the guy who's now running for California governor. I'm like, wow, I really like this guy. I tell my wife all the time, I hope what he's saying is true. And I know you've shared in some instances, there's some communities inside of the US where you're helping the campaign make sure that they're putting out valid messages, and people can go then and look and say, okay, what this guy's saying is real, and now I feel confident that I can put my vote behind them.
Yes, with the concentration of media in the US, it means that a lot of the messaging becomes monolithic. So it's either this side or that side, and people watch right wing or left wing media. They rarely watch both. So they get this myopic, or it's information within a bubble. What we're working to do is create a situation where every district, every candidate uses our technology, which means that they're competing against other people and their storytelling. So rather than looking at the watching to see what's happening in politics, you can look at what's happening locally, and you can understand and hold accountable any candidates or elected members to ensure that they're doing what they say they're going to do, and that you understand the impact of that. So let's say, for example, in Washington, they decide on $1 trillion policy. What does that actually mean at your local community? If it means that your $16 million is going to an investment in a town that has 500 people, and they get better infrastructure or better healthcare or something like that, it all becomes much more relevant. So that's part of our mission, is to make sure that small organisations and even small media groups and independent news sources, which there are more and more of them, have access to our technology, so that it democratises the whole process of media. It reinvigorates media by making sure there's a lot of new, fresh content available, and the images that you provide and the video that you provide comes from a verifiable source. Now, for a journalist, that's pure gold. For you, that means that you get to get your story out there with your images and your video content. Again, first time it's ever been this simple.
No, and I mean, it's incredible in so many of these use cases. The other one that we were talking about too was, I know for if Amazon was putting up a big facility not that far up, and the narrative was more jobs, more jobs, more jobs, and there were these people going, well, it's going to have an impact on the environment, and it's going to impact traffic and things like that. And what you're saying too is you get to see all of the facts, and then if you have the opportunity to vote whether they build this thing or not, you're going to go, I now can vote with confidence because I know the impact and I'm willing to accept these risks, or now I get it. It's not just job creation, it's all of these other things.
Yeah, the transparency is something that the irony is we're getting more and more information, but it's less and less transparent. So we're getting overwhelmed with information from AI, which again, they call it AI slop. It's everywhere. And so it's a case of we just get to the point where our empathy levels go down. We see only a particular part of this information. We can only process part of it. But if we can start building those local stories, those local news resources, so that these huge organisations and these people with massive power have to be accountable, that can only be a good thing for everyone.
Yeah, no, it's interesting again in the sense so my son, who's in the United States military, um, was telling me the other day. He goes, Dad, I've switched off Instagram. He goes, I'm tired of being told what to think. And I could just see, like, having access to something like this where you're an intelligent individual, where you're able to form your own thoughts, but now you're forming your own thoughts with, again, factual information that you can then go, okay, now this person's not telling me to do this or think like this, or create their own narrative about who, whatever it is. I could just see this revolutionizing that, even if you guys have thought about something like that, but just for my son's 26 years old.
Yeah, it's at the top of our list because everyone that we're working with, all the clients that we've been talking to, they all have the same issue. How do we actually get our stories out there? Because they're getting diminishing returns on the old PR model. It's very expensive. It's very hit and miss. What we've done is we've taken the mystery out of the process. We've made it simpler, and we allow you to do things like focus on things like local media. So you may not want to get national media coverage. You want to focus on the local area. And the media, local media has a trust level of twice what national media has. So if you can get content into your local media source, it's going to deliver a lot more value to you and build more trust around what you're actually trying to do. But it's also one of the benefits of public relations when you get it right. It's like having putting money into an insurance policy. You may not need a lot of it today, but if something goes wrong, and things do go wrong, then you actually have money in the bank. You have something that you can pull back on. That reputation has been built, and you can lean into that. You can lean into the media connections you've made and respond in almost real time and say, actually, that's not a true story. So let's say, for example, a local news source picks up on something about a local business and there's a video online they find in social media. They don't know whether it's AI or not. It could be completely fake. So they do a story on it. Your business or your organization starts to suffer immediately. If you can respond and say, actually, that's a fake video, here's the real video, or here's the real information, they will do a story on that, which means that you can also turn that around. So now you've also corrected a falsehood, but you've also improved your media profile and the reputation of your organization. That's just one simple example of how that can actually work. But the idea of using public relations in parallel with advertising is it supercharges your advertising activity, because PR is all about reputation. And if your reputation is higher, then those ads that you send out will hit with more impact. People are more likely to click on those ads and buy your product or service if you already have an existing reputation that people trust.
Yeah, it's such a, I mean, it's just such a revolutionary concept, and I know you're super excited about it. So the other thing that I think you shared, and I believe this is a unique component of what you do, is the way I understand it is the way you're bringing journalists into this trusted platform and how they've adopted and kind of bought into to this concept. Maybe just share a little bit of that as well.
Sure. The product was, and the technology is based around a large language model that we built ourselves. So when you think of somebody like, whether it's ChatGPT or any of those large language models, they're collecting all the information they can, anything they can get their hands on, they're aggregating all of that. The problem with that is when you give them a specific task to do, for example, writing a press release or doing something in the voice of a journalist, it doesn't do it very well, because it's trying to figure out cheaper ways of processing all of that data, but it can't see the difference between something that a journalist has written and something that a 5-year-old kid has actually put onto social media. It sees them in a similar way. They're trying to work it out, but they're a long way from getting there. Our language model is built just on published content from journalists. So when we write in the style of the journalist, and it's authentic. Now, the benefit of that is that you get content that is really consistent with what journalists want. Because journalists have been saying for decades that they want personalised content. So we don't just write the press release, we send it to them in their own voice. So we have 1 million journalists and 1 million voice models. So we write it for them so that they can pretty much publish it as it is. But on the other side of this, the media got wind of what we're actually doing, and we asked us to present their language model, because they're all trying to do something similar to this for broadcasting and for other things. We demonstrated our product and they pretty much said, maybe we'll just drop what we're doing and use your solution. So we've developed a product specifically for newsrooms and news sources. And that opens up an entire other group of people. So these people are the ones who are generating or making the news, and they need something that protects their reputation and the integrity of what they're doing. So we have tools that we're building there that will be able to identify fake stories and fake images and videos so they don't make that mistake. But going beyond that, we now are talking with the major media courses in the US. The best of the top 3 we're in discussion with, because they want to teach the next generation of journalists how to use this technology. So they've seen it and they've identified that this is the future of media, and they want to be able to allow their students to come out into the world and use this technology and deliver a higher standard of journalism than they can today.
That's incredible because I was, it's funny you said that. I was thinking yesterday, I was watching I don't watch the news very often because again, I don't know what to believe, but the age old thing where there's these movies that they've sensationalized the old media person who was in the war zone and things like that. And like now changing that model and having these kids come out of college with it's the old version was here and the new one is here, and being probably 100 times more effective in your journalism. And the only thing that it's not doing is you're not standing in the war zone while the bombs are going up behind you, but you're finally giving solid and positive news, or at least factual news.
Yeah, and the what's happening with their students are coming out of college and they're burning out within the first 12 months. They've got a burnout rate of 30% out of these journalist colleges. That's a terrifying number. So they're not getting past the first year. As soon as they land into that environment, they think they've got time to write these stories, and they're given 5 stories to write a week. And they just can't do it. It's too much. By accessing press releases in a format that we generate them, that might take care of 2 or 3 of their stories for the week. Now they've got that extra time to focus on the investigative stuff. Now, they may not be in a war zone, but they want to investigate a city council or something else that's happening where they're working or that's relevant to their readers. This gives them the extra time to do that. It also gives them extra time to polish the stories that they're working on, because the whole idea is we don't want our journalists to put out stuff that looks like social media. We want stuff that is really well considered, well researched, and well written with a really good visual narrative. And our technology enables that to happen and gives them the free time to work on those investigative pieces that are really important to society.
And I can see people building their own brands, like, and not having to be tied to some large newspaper like you used to have to do. But if you are positioning authentic information, I'm assuming your brand is going to grow, and you then can create your own media source with this type of model.
Yeah, well, what we have is part of the solution is an actual media center. So think of it like an illustrated magazine, a news magazine, where you can jump on, find stories that have visual narratives. And what happens is that it's discoverable to a journalist. So I might, as a journalist, jump online, have a quick look on a subject, come back to one of our clients' sites, download the story, download the images and video, and then they come back to it regularly. We've got clients who are getting up to 13,000 journalists a month coming back to their media center every single month, like clockwork. It becomes their main source. They come in, they see this, what's the latest story? What can I do? Because they, I can get the story. It comes from a verifiable source. There's no AI. I can download the images and videos. It'll get past my editors. I can publish, and I can do great content, and my readers or viewers love it. So these people have been doing this we've got one client, this is well before AI. They've been doing it for 6 years. The same group of people come in every month looking for new stories. Now, even if that's a much smaller number for your media center, not having to chase down journalists to get your story published is the ultimate goal for PR people. And this helps you do that. So you don't have to get on the phone and say, did you get my press release? Are you going to publish my story? The work is done for you. And you can do it at scale as well.
It's incredible. I know every time we speak, I got so we could go on for hours and hours, but we're getting close to the end of time. So
that's okay.
Now we're going to get to the exciting part that you've put out there for folks. So for small businesses, and we've got a special offer for everybody. So why don't you just, again, tell us about the company, the website, and then what we're going to give the viewers the ability to do.
Sure. What I'll do is I'll get you to put up at the end the URL for this offer. But what we're doing is we're extending an offer to your viewers and listeners, which is a 60-day free trial. Now, we don't do this normally, but we want to be able to allow small businesses to actually try this out for themselves. And rather than talk about it, we want them to be able to jump in and use the technology and see what it actually means to their organization, to their mission, to their business. So, once we finish the podcast, if you want to put up that graphic, but if you want to look more, you can just go to lookatmedia.co. So that's .co, not .com. And you'll get some understanding. You can get it from a sector base as well. But Thank you so much for today, Greg. I mean, you're right, we could go on for the next 3 hours. This is such an interesting and topical subject for what's happening in the world today. Maybe we'll have another chat at another time about more of
Very,
this.
it's very likely once we get all these people to sign up, we'll talk about that. But yeah, I mean that's true. And the thing for me, what's exciting about it is I've not spoken to anybody else that has anything like this, and I do truly believe it's revolutionary. So, folks, like you said, we'll put a link up there when I post it on LinkedIn. We'll put the link in. The first 50 people that sign up are going to get this access, and then it's going to be relatively inexpensive if you do use it moving forward, and you can actually have your full PR organization for you for any size of business. For you would be surprised at how inexpensive it is.
Fantastic. Well, thank you. And I hope you have lots of people who jump on and get to experience the product for themselves. And thank you again, Greg, for this
Okay.
opportunity. And thank you to your listeners.
Yeah, thank you.